Admiral Supreme Zarthek commanded the largest fleet in galactic history as it approached the human solar system. 10,000 ships from dozens of species moved through space like a swarm of deadly insects, carrying enough firepower to destroy entire star systems. The Admiral had never seen such overwhelming force assembled for a single purpose, but the humans had proven themselves unlike any enemy the galaxy had ever faced. As the massive fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel, at the edge of the solar system, Zarthek expected to find desperate human forces preparing for a hopeless final battle. Instead, his sensors detected something that should have been impossible: a sphere of altered space-time surrounding the entire solar system like a giant bubble. "Report," Zarthek demanded from his flagship science officer. The officer, a member of the Calculating Quantum Assembly, ran multiple scans before responding with obvious confusion. "Admiral, the humans appear to have created a localized region where the fundamental constants of physics operate differently. Within that sphere, our sensors detect impossible readings. Through the view screens, the Coalition fleet could see human ships moving faster than light without using any recognizable propulsion technology. Energy weapons fired backwards, creating explosions that seemed to travel into the past. Gravitational fields flowed upward like rivers in the sky, while electromagnetic forces created geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly." Dr. Kevin Murphy stood in Earth's orbital command center and watched the massive enemy fleet hesitate at the edge of their solar system. His team had successfully created a pocket universe with its own rules, and the psychological effect on the enemy was exactly what he had hoped for. "They're afraid to enter," reported Captain Sue Nelson from her command ship. "Their computers can't calculate what will happen to their technology if they cross into our modified space." Kevin smiled as he watched it. The dark space around the Sol system had been quiet for months, until the sensors aboard the USS Liberty's Edge began screaming warnings into the bridge. Captain Jake Martinez looked up from his daily reports as the red lights flashed across his command center. His ship was alone out here, doing routine patrol work along the outer edges of human space. Nobody expected trouble this far from the main shipping lanes. "Captain, we have multiple contacts approaching from Sector 7, called out Lieutenant Commander Kate Sullivan from her position at the tactical station. Her voice stayed calm, but Jake could hear the tension underneath. "I count 200 ships, maybe more. They're big, sir. Really big." Jake stood up and walked over to the main display screen. What he saw made his stomach drop. The alien ships looked like nothing humanity had ever built. They were dark and angular, covered in spikes and weapon ports. Each ship was at least 3 times the size of his own vessel. The formation they flew in was meant to scare anyone who saw it. "Any response to our standard greeting signals?" Jake asked his communications officer, Amy Foster. She had been trying to make contact for the past 10 minutes without success. "Nothing yet, sir," Amy replied while adjusting her headset. "I'm broadcasting on all frequencies, but they're not answering. Wait, I'm getting something now." The bridge. Speakers crackled to life with sounds that definitely were not human. The alien language was full of clicks, growls, and high-pitched whistles. Dr. Lisa Harper, the ship's language expert, rushed to her station and began working on the translation. "Computer, it will take me a few minutes to figure out what they're saying," Lisa said as her fingers flew over the keyboard. "The computer is trying to find patterns in their speech." On the main screen, the alien fleet continued its slow approach toward Earth. Jake noticed they were flying in a wall formation that stretched across space like a dark curtain. It was clearly designed to look scary rather than be tactically smart. Any military academy student could see the weaknesses in such a setup. Chief Engineer Ben Cole came running onto the bridge. His uniform was covered in grease stains from working in the engine room. "Captain, all systems are running perfectly. The new fusion reactors are giving us more power than we know what to do with. Whatever you're planning, we're ready for it." Jake nodded and turned back to the display. The alien ships were still hours away at their current speed, but their intent seemed clear. Nobody brings 200 warships to a peaceful meeting. He pressed the ship-wide communication button. "All hands. This is the captain speaking. We have encountered what appears to be an alien fleet approaching our solar system. We are currently attempting peaceful contact, but I want all departments to prepare for possible combat operations. This is not a drill." Throughout the ship, the crew of 127 people began their preparations. In the weapons section, Ryan Clark ran diagnostics on all the ship's guns and missile systems. Everything checked out green on his board. The experimental particle beam weapon they had been testing showed ready status for the first time since installation. Down in the Information Warfare Center, Lieutenant Tony Russo started up his electronic countermeasure systems. His job was to hack into enemy computers and communications if fighting started. He had trained for years on simulated alien technology, but this would be his first real test. Dr. Lisa Harper finally got a partial translation working. "Captain, I think I understand some of what they're saying. They're demanding that we surrender immediately. They keep using words that translate to things like submit, kneel, and serve. They don't sound interested in talking." The alien fleet commander aboard the lead ship was named Zixthon. He had conquered 47 different worlds using the same tactics every time. His ships would arrive in overwhelming numbers, demand surrender, and then either accept submission or destroy everything that moved. It had worked perfectly for 300 years. "Are the primitive creatures responding to our demands?" Zixthon asked his second-in-command, War Leader Kethmore. "They continue to broadcast mathematical sequences and peaceful symbols," Kethmore replied. "The same weak behavior we have seen from all inferior species. They are clearly terrified and trying to buy time before they surrender." Zixthon made the clicking sound that meant satisfaction in his language. "Excellent. Begin the final approach. Maintain intimidation formation. These creatures will submit just like all the others." Back on the Liberty's edge, Jake was reading the tactical analysis that Kate had prepared. The alien ships used energy shields and particle weapons similar to human technology, but their designs were old-fashioned. They relied on thick armor and massive size instead of speed and cleverness. "Captain," Amy called out, "I'm receiving what appears to be an ultimatum. Dr. Harper says they're giving us 1 hour to surrender unconditionally, or they will destroy our entire solar system." Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. These were good people who had trained their entire careers for a moment like this. They came from all over Earth. Amy was from Texas, Kate from California, Ben from Ohio, Lisa from New York. They represented the best of humanity. "Options?" Jake asked. Kate pulled up tactical displays showing possible escape routes. "We could run, sir. We're faster than they are. We could reach Earth and warn the fleet." "How long would that take?" Jake asked. 6 hours at maximum speed. "But, sir, by the time the main fleet could respond, those aliens would already be attacking Earth's orbital stations." Dr. Lisa Harper spoke up from her station. "Captain, I'm reading their cultural database through their open communication channels. These beings have never met a species that didn't either run away immediately or surrender after seeing their fleet. They think size and numbers always win battles." Jake walked over to the front windows of the bridge and looked out at the approaching alien armada. 200 ships against 1. Any sane person would call those impossible odds. But Jake remembered his training at the academy, where they taught that humans had won impossible battles before by thinking differently than their enemies. "Ben, how long would it take to bring all our systems to full power?" Jake asked his chief engineer. "About 30 minutes, sir. But Captain, even at full power, we can't fight 200 ships." Jake smiled for the first time since the aliens arrived. "Who said anything about fighting them the way they expect? Amy, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we have made contact with a hostile alien fleet and are engaging according to first contact protocols. Lisa, I want to know everything about how their ships talk to each other. Tony, start mapping their communication network. Kate, I want firing solutions for something they won't expect." The crew began working with the focused intensity that made human military units so effective. Each person knew their job and did it without question. This was what 300 years of military tradition and training produced, professionals who could face impossible odds without panic. On the alien flagship, Zixthan watched his sensor readings with satisfaction. The single human ship was moving into what appeared to be a defensive position. Soon it would realize the futility of resistance and surrender. Then the conquest of this system could begin properly. Neither side realized they were about to make history. The aliens expected another easy victory like the 47 that came before. The humans were preparing to show the galaxy that Earth's children did not go quietly into the dark. The moment of truth had arrived. Captain Jake Martinez watched as the alien fleet finished moving into attack formation. 200 massive warships now surrounded his single vessel like predators closing in on prey. The Kethvar had done exactly what he hoped they would do. They had spread out their ships to prevent the Liberty's Edge from escaping. "Captain," Amy Foster called out from her communications station, "the aliens are demanding one final time that we surrender. They're saying this is our last chance to avoid destruction." Jake looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. Lieutenant Commander Kate Sullivan was running final checks on her targeting systems. Chief Engineer Ben Cole was monitoring power levels that were higher than anything the ship had ever produced. Lieutenant Tony Russo had his fingers poised over his keyboard, ready to launch the most sophisticated cyber attack in human history. "Send them our final answer," Jake told Amy. Amy opened a channel to the alien fleet and spoke with calm authority. "This is the USS Liberty's Edge. We do not surrender, we do not retreat. If you want Earth, you'll have to go through us first." On the alien flagship, Commander Zixthan heard the translation and made the clicking sound that indicated extreme amusement. War Leader Kethmore approached his command station with barely contained excitement. "Commander, all ships report ready to fire. Shall we end this foolishness?" Kethmore asked. Zixthan looked out at the tiny human vessel that dared to challenge his mighty fleet. In 300 years of conquest, he had never encountered such stubborn bravery. It was almost admirable in its stupidity. "Yes," Zixthan replied. "All ships open fire. Target their engines first. I want to capture their captain alive so he can watch as we reduce his homeworld to ash." The order went out across the Kethvar, fleet through their quantum communication network. 200 ships began powering up their main weapons. Energy signatures spiked across every sensor as enough firepower to destroy a small moon was brought to bear on a single human vessel. But Jake Martinez was not waiting to be destroyed. The moment he saw the first weapon ports beginning to glow, he gave the orders that would change galactic history forever. "Tony, execute cyber attack now. Kate, fire the particle beam on my mark. Ben, give me everything the reactors have got. Amy, record everything for Earth Command." Lieutenant Tony Russo's fingers flew across his keyboard as he launched the infiltration program he had been preparing for the past hour. The program was designed to exploit the weaknesses he had found in Kethvar network security. It spread through their quantum communication links like a virus through an unprotected computer system. The first effects appeared within seconds. On ship after ship throughout the alien fleet, navigation computers began receiving conflicting orders. Weapon targeting systems started selecting random coordinates instead of locking onto the human vessel. Life support systems began cycling through diagnostic routines that consumed massive amounts of processing power. "What is happening?" Zixthon demanded as his bridge displays began flickering between different readouts. "I don't know, Commander," Kethmore replied, his voice filled with confusion. "Our systems are malfunctioning across the entire fleet. Ships are reporting communication failures, targeting errors, and power distribution problems." Jake watched his tactical display as chaos spread through the alien formation. Ships that had been maintaining perfect positions began drifting out of alignment as their navigation systems failed. Some vessels started firing their weapons at empty space as their targeting computers selected random coordinates. "Kate, now!" Jake ordered. Lieutenant Commander Kate Sullivan pressed the firing control for the experimental particle beam weapon. The Liberty's Edge had been testing this system for months, but it had never been used in actual combat. The weapon drew power directly from the ship's fusion reactors and channeled it into a focused beam of exotic particles. The beam lanced out from the human ship and struck the alien flagship directly amidships. But this wasn't like conventional weapons that simply exploded on impact. The particle beam created a cascade effect in the target's energy systems. Power conduits overloaded, shield generators exploded, and the cascade effect jumped from the flagship to the two ships flying closest to it. Within 10 seconds, the three largest ships in the Kethvar fleet were dead in space, their hulls dark and their crews struggling with life support failures. "Impossible," Zixthon whispered as his ship's emergency lighting flickered on. Half of his bridge displays were dark, and the other showed critical system failures throughout his vessel. But the attack was just beginning. Tony Russo's cyber virus had spread through the entire alien network, carrying with it a special surprise. Every ship that had been infected was now broadcasting a targeting signal that the particle beam weapon could lock onto automatically. Cascade. "Targeting acquired," Kate reported. "I have firing solutions on 197 vessels." "Fire," Jake ordered. The particle beam began jumping from ship to ship like lightning, jumping between metal rods. Each time it hit a new target, the cascade effect overloaded that vessel's power systems and spread to nearby ships. The alien formation, designed for intimidation rather than tactical effectiveness, became a liability as the tightly packed vessels allowed the cascade effect to spread rapidly through their ranks. Chief Engineer Ben Cole watched in amazement, as his power systems handled loads they were never designed for. The fusion reactors were running at 120% of rated capacity, but they held steady. Human engineering was proving itself against alien technology. Dr. Lisa. Harper listened to the alien communications channels as panic spread through their fleet. The clicking and whistling sounds of the Kethvar language became higher-pitched and more frantic as ship after ship reported critical system failures. "Captain," Lisa called out, "they're trying to order a retreat, but their communication system is too damaged to coordinate it properly. Most of their ships can't even receive orders anymore." The battle, if it could even be called that, was over in less than 4 minutes. Of the 200 ships that had approached Earth with such confidence, only 12 still had any functioning systems at all. The rest drifted in space like dead metal, their crews alive but helpless. Jake looked at his tactical display and felt a mixture of satisfaction and amazement. They had done it. One human ship had defeated an entire alien armada using weapons and tactics that the Kethvar had never encountered before. "Damage report," Jake called out. "No damage to report, sir," Ben Cole replied. "All systems are functioning normally, power levels returning to standard operating parameters." "Casualties?" "None, sir," Amy Foster reported. "All crew members are accounted for and uninjured." Jake stood up and walked to the main viewing window. Outside, he could see the dark hulks of alien ships drifting helplessly in space. Each vessel contained hundreds or thousands of living beings who had just learned that they were not the masters of the galaxy they thought they were. "Amy, open a channel to the surviving alien ships," Jake ordered. "Channel open, sir." Jake took a deep breath and spoke to his defeated enemies. "This is Captain Martinez. Your attack on Earth has failed. Your ships are disabled but not destroyed. Your crews are alive. Surrender now, and we will provide medical assistance and safe passage. Home. Continue to resist, and we will be forced to take more aggressive action." On the bridge of the crippled alien flagship, Commander Zixthon listened to the human captain's words with a mixture of shock and disbelief. In 4 minutes, everything he thought he knew about warfare had been proven wrong. A single enemy ship had destroyed his entire fleet without taking a single casualty. War leader Keth Moore approached his commander's station, his proud bearing replaced by confusion and fear. "Commander, what are your orders?" Zixthon looked out at the wreckage of his mighty armada. 300 years of Kethvar military tradition had just been shattered by creatures they had dismissed as primitive. The humans had not just defeated them. They had done it so quickly and efficiently that it seemed almost effortless. "We surrender," Zixthon said quietly. The surrender message from Commander Zixthon came through the damaged alien communication systems with a mixture of defeat and disbelief. Captain Jake Martinez heard the translation from Dr. Lisa Harper and felt the tension on his bridge ease for the first time in hours. "Confirmed surrender from the alien flagship," Lisa reported. "I'm receiving similar messages from the other 11 ships that still have working communications. They're requesting immediate assistance for their damaged vessels." Jake looked out at the field of disabled alien warships floating in space around his vessel. Each dark hull represented hundreds or thousands of living beings who had attacked Earth with the intention of conquest and slavery. Now they were helpless and asking for mercy from the people they had planned to destroy. "Amy, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we have successfully repelled an alien invasion fleet and are taking prisoners according to military law. Request immediate dispatch of rescue and medical vessels to our coordinates," Jake ordered. Lieutenant Commander Kate Sullivan was still monitoring her tactical displays, making sure no alien ships were trying to repair their weapons systems. The cascade effect from the particle beam had been more thorough than anyone expected. Most of the enemy vessels showed no energy readings at all. "Sir, I'm detecting life support failures on at least 30 ships," Kate reported. "Their environmental systems are failing, and they don't have long before crew compartments become uninhabitable." Jake made a decision that would define how the galaxy remembered humanity's first military victory. Instead of leaving his enemies to die in the cold vacuum of space, he chose to save them. "Ben, prepare the emergency life support pods. Tony, see if you can establish communication links with the ships in critical condition. We need to coordinate rescue operations," Jake ordered. Chief Engineer Ben Cole looked up from his station with surprise. "Captain, our life support pods are designed for our own crew. I'm not sure they'll work with alien biology." "Then modify them," Jake replied firmly. We're not going to let people die just because they attacked us first. That's not who we are. Dr. Lisa Harper had been monitoring alien communications and heard something that made her speak up. Captain, I'm picking up conversations between the alien survivors. They can't understand why we're trying to help them. Some of them think this is a trap or some kind of psychological torture. Jake realized that the Kethvar had probably never encountered an enemy who showed mercy after victory. Their 300 years of conquest had taught them that warfare ended with either total submission or total destruction. The concept of treating defeated enemies with compassion was completely foreign to them. Lieutenant Tony Russo had managed to establish communication links with most of the disabled ships. What he found surprised him. Captain, their computer systems are actually more advanced than ours in some ways. They just never developed proper security protocols because they never had to worry about cyber attacks. It's like they never fought anyone smart enough to hack them. On the alien flagship, Commander Zixthon was trying to understand what was happening. His sensors showed human vessels approaching his ship, but instead of boarding parties with weapons, they carried what appeared to be medical and repair equipment. Commander, War Leader Kethmore reported, the humans are sending technical data about emergency life support modifications. They want to help repair our environmental systems. Zixthon stared at his subordinate in confusion. They want to help us? After we attacked them? Yes, Commander. They're also offering medical assistance for our wounded crew members. Zixthon had conquered 47 star systems and never once offered aid to a defeated enemy. The idea was so alien to him that he wondered if the humans were planning some elaborate form of revenge. Perhaps they intended to keep the Kethvar alive so they could be tortured or enslaved. But as human repair teams began working on alien ships, it became clear that their intentions were genuine. Human engineers worked alongside Kethvar technicians to restore life support systems. Human medical teams treated alien wounded with the same care they would give their own people. Dr. Carol Price, the Liberty's Edge's chief medical officer, found herself treating injuries she had never seen before. Kethvar biology was different from human anatomy, but the basic principles of trauma medicine still applied. She worked with alien medical personnel to adapt human treatment methods for their physiology. These people saved our lives, one young Kethvar engineer said to his commander after human technicians restored power to his ship. They could have let us die, but they chose to help us instead. Captain Jake Martinez decided it was time to meet his defeated enemy face to face. He arranged to transport over to the alien flagship with a small diplomatic party including Dr. Lisa Harper as translator and Lieutenant Commander Kate Sullivan as security escort. The inside of the Kethvar ship was impressive, but damaged. Dark. Corridors lit by emergency lighting stretched in all directions. The walls were covered with what appeared to be battle honors, symbols representing their conquered worlds. Jake counted dozens of different symbols, each one representing a civilization that had fallen to this fleet. Commander Zixthon met them in what had been his command center. The alien leader was tall and covered in dark scales, with 4 arms and large eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. Despite his defeat, he carried himself with dignity. I am Commander Zixthon of the Kethvar Collective, he said through Lisa's translation device. I formally surrender my fleet to you and accept responsibility for this attack on your species. Jake studied the alien commander for a moment before responding. I'm Captain Jake Martinez of the United Earth Space Navy. Your surrender is accepted. Your crews will be treated according to our military laws, which means they'll receive medical care, proper food, and safe transport home when arrangements can be made. Zixthan's large eyes widened with surprise. You intend to release us? Eventually, yes, Jake replied. We're not conquerors. We don't want to rule other species or take their worlds. We just want to protect our own people and live in peace. The alien commander was quiet for a long moment, processing information that challenged everything he thought he knew about warfare and victory. Finally, he spoke again. In 300 years of conquest, we have never encountered a species like yours. Most civilizations we attacked either surrendered immediately or fought desperately until they were completely destroyed. You defeated our entire fleet in minutes, then chose to save our lives instead of letting us die. I do not understand your reasoning. Jake thought about how to explain human nature to someone who had spent centuries conquering others. We fight when we have to, but we don't enjoy killing. We believe that all intelligent life has value, even when that life threatens us. Showing mercy to defeated enemies isn't weakness, it's strength. As Jake and his party toured the damaged alien ship, they learned more about HFY society and military doctrine. The aliens had built their entire culture around the idea that might makes right. They had never developed concepts like mercy, diplomacy, or peaceful coexistence because they had never needed them. Your tactics were unlike anything in our military. Databases, Zixthan admitted as they walked through his ship's corridors. We expected you to fight like all the other species we have conquered, with conventional weapons and predictable strategies. Instead, you used weapons and methods we had never seen before. Kate Sullivan explained some of the technical details of their victory. Your ships were designed to intimidate enemies into surrender. The tight formation that looked so impressive also made you vulnerable to weapons that could jump from target to target, and your computer networks prioritized coordination over security, which made them easy to hack. Dr. Lisa Harper was fascinated by the cultural implications of the battle. Captain, I think we just introduced an entirely new concept to galactic warfare. Until today, every conflict in this part of space was decided by whoever had the biggest fleet or the most powerful weapons. We won by thinking differently. As they prepared to return to the Liberty's edge, Commander Zixthan made one final observation that would stay with Jake for years to come. Captain Martinez, your species has just announced itself to the galaxy in a way that will be remembered for centuries. You have shown that you can defeat any enemy, no matter how powerful, and that you will show mercy even to those who would have destroyed you. The other civilizations will not know whether to fear you or admire you. Jake looked out at the damaged alien fleet one more time before answering. Maybe they'll do both. Maybe that's exactly what we need. The hour that the aliens had given humanity to surrender was almost over. Captain Jake Martinez stood on his bridge watching the countdown timer that Amy Foster had put on the main screen. 53 minutes had passed since the ultimatum, and his ship was ready for whatever came next. Dr. Lisa Harper had been working non-stop to understand the alien language and culture. Her translation computer had learned enough to give them a clear picture of what they were facing. The HFY Collective, as they called themselves, had been conquering star systems for 3 centuries. They had never lost a battle. Captain, Lisa said, looking up from her workstation, I've been listening to their internal communications. They're completely confident that we'll surrender in the next few minutes. Their commander, someone called Zixthan, is already discussing which humans they'll keep as slaves and which planets they'll strip for resources. Jake felt his jaw tighten. The aliens weren't just planning to conquer Earth. They were planning to treat humanity like cattle. That changed things. This wasn't just about first contact anymore. This was about survival. Lieutenant Commander Kate Sullivan had spent the hour analyzing alien ship designs and tactics. What she found was both encouraging and terrifying. Sir, they're using formation tactics that are centuries old. Everything is based on overwhelming firepower and psychological intimidation. But there's something else. All their ships are networked together through quantum communication links. What does that mean for us? Jake asked. It means they can coordinate perfectly, but it also means they have a single point of failure. If we could disrupt their network, the whole fleet might lose coordination. Down in the Information Warfare Center, Lieutenant Tony Russo had been probing the edges of the alien communication system. What he found surprised him. Captain, you need to hear this. These aliens use computer security that's about 50 years behind ours. Their quantum encryption is strong, but their network protocols are incredibly basic. It's like they never had to worry about cyber attacks. Chief Engineer Ben Cole reported that all ship systems were running at 100% efficiency. The fusion reactors were producing more power than the ship had ever generated before. The experimental particle beam weapon was charged and ready. All conventional weapon systems showed green across the board. On the alien flagship, Commander Zixthon was growing impatient with human delay tactics. War leader Kethmore approached his command throne with the latest sensor readings. The human vessel continues to broadcast peaceful intentions, Kethmore reported. They are clearly hoping we will show mercy if they appear non-threatening, a pathetic strategy that has failed for every species we have encountered. Zixthan stood up and walked to the massive viewing window at the front of his bridge. His ship alone was larger than most space stations. Behind him, 199. Other warships maintained perfect formation. The sight had caused entire civilizations to surrender without firing a shot. Have any of our previous conquests attempted to fight back? Zixthon asked. Only 3 species tried to resist, Kethmore replied. The longest battle lasted 18 minutes. Most surrendered after seeing our fleet destroy their orbital defenses. And this human ship thinks it can succeed where entire fleets have failed. Zixthon made the clicking sound that indicated amusement. Very well. When the hour ends, destroy them quickly. I want to begin bombardment of their planet before the day cycle completes. Back on the Liberty's edge, the final minutes were ticking away. Jake had made his decision, but first he needed to address his crew. He activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is the captain. In 3 minutes, we will be at war with a force that outnumbers us 200 to 1. I won't lie to you. Nobody has ever faced odds like this and survived. But we're not nobody. We're human beings, and we don't give up. We don't surrender. And we sure as hell don't let anyone threaten our families back home. Jake paused and looked around his bridge. Every face showed determination instead of fear. These aliens think they know everything about warfare because they've beaten species that gave up without fighting. They're about to learn what happens when they face people who never learned how to quit. All departments report ready status. Weapons ready, Ryan Clark called out. Engineering ready, Ben Cole confirmed. Information warfare ready, Tony Russo reported. Communications ready, Amy Foster said. Tactical analysis complete, Kate Sullivan announced. Translation systems active, Lisa Harper confirmed. The countdown timer reached 0. On every screen throughout the alien fleet, the same message appeared in the Kethvar language. Surrender now or face total annihilation. Jake looked at Amy Foster. Send our reply. Amy opened a channel to the alien fleet and spoke clearly. "This is Captain Jake Martinez of the United Earth Space Navy. We reject your demands for surrender. Earth and humanity are under the protection of this vessel and our fleet. Any hostile action against human worlds or ships will be met with immediate and overwhelming force. You have one chance to withdraw peacefully." The bridge of Zixthan's flagship erupted in the clicking sounds that meant laughter among the Kethvar. A single small ship was threatening their entire armada. War leader Kethmore could barely control his amusement. "Commander, shall I order the fleet to open fire?" Kethmore asked. "Not yet," Zixthan replied. "I want to savor this moment. In all our centuries of conquest, no species has ever been this foolishly brave. Order all ships to target their engines and life support. I want to capture some of these humans alive so we can study what makes them so delusional." The alien fleet began to adjust its formation. Ships that had been flying in an intimidation wall started spreading out into attack positions. Weapon ports opened across 200 vessels. Energy readings spiked as shields came to full power. Jake watched the tactical display as the aliens prepared for battle. Everything was going exactly as he had hoped. They were so confident in their superiority that they were taking their time, giving him the precious seconds he needed. "Tony, are you ready?" Jake asked. "Yes, sir. I've mapped their entire network. When you give the word, I can start the infiltration program." "Kate, firing solutions?" "All targets acquired, sir. The particle beam is locked onto their flagship." "Ben, power levels?" 110% of normal capacity, sir. "All systems are running perfectly." Jake took a deep breath and looked out at the alien fleet. They thought this was going to be like their previous 47 conquests. They expected the humans to panic, make mistakes, and die quickly. They had no idea what was about to happen. "All stations, prepare for combat operations." "This is not going to be a fair fight," Jake said with a smile that would have worried the aliens if they could have seen it. "We're going to show them what humans do when someone threatens our home." The last peaceful moments in this corner of space were ticking away. In 30 seconds, the galaxy would learn that humanity had arrived, and they had brought new rules for warfare.